Monster Hunter, Bird Wyverns often are the first large monsters you ever fight, be it Velocidrome, Great Jaggy, and with a few exceptions, are often the bottom of the food chain. So as a first challenge run in Monster Hunter Stories, I want to try to find out, can you beat Monster Hunter Stories using only Bird Wyverns? The rules are as follow. I can only use Bird Wyvern Monsties and equipment. No items in battle that gives in-battle effects such as mist, but I will permit paint bombs. No duplicate Monsties. I can only use field skills from Bird Wyverns, with exceptions if the main story requires a skill none have. I need to collect all Bird Wyverns from an area before moving forward. Note from future Nirala, I discarded this rule later in the run, but I do follow it for most of the run, hence why I still mention it. And a special rule I set up for this run, I need to collect the unique Yian Kut-Ku egg from the special quest Terror in Flight. Starting the run, I collect items on the way to character creation. Since I cannot give Bird Wyvern hairstyles, I decided to go with, as close as I could, to a Mizutsune-like look. After a bit of storytelling, we get to the ritual where Neveru attempts to egg-nap our Velocidrome before joining us and hatching the egg, giving us our first Bird Wyvern. Heading out toward Mount Poundry Caves, I pound an innocent Aptonoff to feed my Velocidrome, then beat up a few Velociprey for the Velocidrome armor set. Now, you might notice my equipment is not that of a Bird Wyvern. I will be correcting that as soon as possible, but right now armor crafting is not available and will not be until I reach the Hunter City. Once inside the cave, we encounter a Norgekuga, one of my favorite monsters, though not as high as Mizutsune. I love that bubble fox. It's a tutorial and he uses only speed attacks, so it is an easy battle. Back to the village, I am given a handful of quests. Now, I will not cover side quests if they ask me to defeat common enemies or fetch shit. But if a quest sends me to fight a boss like the one to slay Cunning Raptor, I will for sure cover them as they are improved version of large monsters. On the way to the Cunning Raptor, I encountered a Yian Kut-Ku. I decided to fight. And he did not disappoint as he nearly destroyed me and my Velocidrome, making me cart twice. Returning to town to recover my missing heart, I return a few quests, most of them giving me consumable items, but the important one giving me access to the sweep move on my greatsword. Now, finally heading out for the Cunning Raptor, I find him near the mines and surprise him with a back attack. I expected him to be a little harder, but he turned out to be an easy fight, expecting to lose at the very least one heart. Now heading to collect the eggs. It is still part of the tutorial, so they teach us to use jump pads and how to collect eggs. Then only has up to enough eggs, but at least I have my egg for my sword and shield move, I guess. Now having the task to hunt down an Arzuros, I decide to make a detour inside a few dens to collect more eggs. First, I collect a Fang Beast eggs for a side quest, then a Yian Kut-Ku's egg, giving me access to my second Monstie. Not long after that, I find my first rare den where the eggs are guarded by a blue Yian Kut-Ku that I managed to barely avoid, expecting him to wipe the floor with me, and get out with a blue Yian Kut-Ku's egg, the last bird wyvern of this area. With my party of bird wyverns, I head to the big silly bear and put down Weenie for a little nap so he stops eating all the honey. It is mine and mine alone. Pursuing Lilia Wu went after Cheval into the forest we encounter an Eodrum, one of my future Monsties, with the ability to poison his foes. Now the fight itself was easy. He wasted 2 turns poisoning us while we burn him. Fun fact, Cheval is French for horse. But by the way this kid is acting, we should have named him Anne, which is French for donkey. The fight against the veteran, the unique Yian Kut-Ku, was an easy one. I expected him to be worse given my previous fight against the Yian Kut-Ku. Of course, this one will always run away once the fight is over. This fight was followed by a fight against the Willy Bird, a unique blue Yian Kut-Ku. Now, unlike other monsters at this stage, he seemed to use a technique and speed 50-50, causing me to cart once. Now at the Kinship Ore Stone, we have a rematch against Nargacuga. He mainly uses speed attacks, meaning my Yian Kut-Kus were perfect for the job, allowing me an easy victory. As soon as I am free from the tutorial area and stepped into an icy cavern, I am assaulted by rabbits out of blood, all while I am freezing my ass off due to my no item rules, causing me to lose a few actions, but luckily I managed to pull through, defeating the Lagombi by picking a hole in his freaking skull. While gathering herb for Evinia, I was attacked by Zemdros, though it was no big deal as cold only affects my party inside caves. And I had already fought another Zemdros in a rareness while following Frostfang. The most damage he did was knock me off my blue Yian Kut-Ku. Next is the big silly delinquent boar. He looks delicious, but he did not let me turn him into ham before at least guarding me once. Silly meal, stop struggling, go in my stomach. After bringing a Lagombi to the old man and being taught the rite of channeling, I instantly go and add the cold resistance gene to my blue Yian Kut-Ku as I intend to use him against the Kezu. However, it was not enough as I was defeated by said Kezu on my first attempt, leading me to go back and upgrade my party through the rite of channeling, giving cold resistance and soothing bellow to my Velocidrum, but also tech resistance to my blue Yian Kut-Ku for the anything bingo bonus and the bonus to health and defense. On my second attempt, I was capable of defeating the Kezu by switching my Monsties. Not that I did not fear the one freezing and wasting a turn, also by ordering my Kut-Ku to use fire attacks whenever he would attempt to use his technique attacks. Now, in the result screen you will see 2 Lagombi. Don't worry, I just forgot to remove them after opening the eggs looking for more good genes. Now outside the caves and into a new area, we have now 3 new monsters to obtain before leaving. Gemdrome, Gypsaros, and Kurupeko. we also meet the first and only royal monster in this game, Ruffian Sakura. While I don't need to defeat her, at least I'm planning on trying, and as I was writing this, I noticed a barrel feline. For those of you who don't know, they're this game's metal slime, but it got away. As I was hunting for the eggs, missing only the gen drum, I went inside the city to advance the story a little and get new armor. Now, I do not consider cities as new areas given they do not have monsters in them. But if you do, consider that rule broken. But at least I have broken my rule while looking good. And if you wonder, yes, I sold the starting equipment. After 2 hours of then diving for that darn Gendrom's egg and not even getting a single one, even though the wiki lists him to appear in the perennial pass, I will assume that the devs forgot to add the eggs in the list of obtainable eggs. For the remaster at least. And will instead search for him in the Monsoon Plain, which I did by beating the fucker up and stealing his egg. Now with the Gendrum obtained, I focus on quests giving me new skills. Last stand for the Great Sword, Sword and Shield Saver, and focus for Great Sword. I cannot do the armor quest because it is not a Bird Wyvern's weapon. Preparing myself for the Pink Ruffian fight, I give my Gendrum Salve, Thunder Breath, and my Kurupeko Fire Fang and Water Soak. After about 5 attempts against her, I decided that I would try later. When my party is a bit stronger as I am right now, I can only take up to 2 hits before getting carded, and with her counterattack, especially since she can counter after a head-to-head, my chances of success are highly reliant on good RNG. Next is the main story's Royal Ludroth. Poor thing got a taste of a party I had leveled up for the Ruffian Sakura. He really did not like, especially since I had the information that he always uses a technique attack after a water move. Now with the Nursula, due to its seemingly random pattern, I am sure it is not random, but I have not yet figured it out. It dealt a lot of damage to my party, though it did not card me. Now, while I was heading towards the Nursula, I had an epiphany. What if Ludroth and Ruffian Sakura were the same? What if she used speed after a fire attack? And I was right! My next attempt was the successful one, and here are how I did it. On head-to-head, she uses power. So use a speed attack with the one she targets. If you're Monstie, then change his skill and cheer him. On head-to-head, after she uses a fire move, use a technique move, same as before for the Monstie. If she targets no one, it means either she will use fire or tail swipe. And it is very important you have sword and shield equipped. Use shield batch. It has a 80 to 90% chance to prevent her from attacking, but it also cancels her counterattack. And if available, wake her up with a powerful electric attack. The Loudcrier and his Blighted Ruffian were an easy duo, especially after that fight with Ruffian Sakura. I simply focused on the damage dealer first, Ruffian, then took care of the Kurupeko. For the following side quests, I made 3 3 attempts against Poison Bloom, but I could not fully grasp the mechanic and kept failing. Not that the reward is something I could use anyway. The Lord of the Sands, however, was just a common Plum Daimyo Armitor. He uses for power for common attacks and technique after increasing his defenses, giving me a new sword and shield move, and another move from hunting small monsters. The Blighted Cephadrum was nothing. He only uses power attacks and digs underground. Knowing this in advance, I had taken my sword and shield so I could defend on turns he would dig and use Kurupeko's skill to power up my defenses, heal, etc. Barroth X is just a common Barroth, but with a Fire Breath attack from Rathian. Nothing extraordinary, easy fight. Blighted Diablos was truly disappointing, even though I remembered him being much harder. Remember what I said about Cephadrum? Well, copy and paste it here cause it's Cephadrum all over, just increase itself and attack. Next we're tasked to break a rock in the middle of town to move further into the story. Luckily I have my Yian Kut-Ku to break the rocks, blocking the water source, so no need to call for the exception right now. At this point we unlock Expedition. While I did not make a rule about them, it feels only fair if I only allow Bird Wyverns. Recovering Rafa, I am forced to make use of the required skill exception, given I not yet have access to the flying Yian Kut-Ku to access Geofulcrife. Right as I enter the city, I unlock the ability to accept 4-star quests and take on the Flying Terror, just a slightly stronger Yian Kut-Ku, completing my special rule for this challenge and giving me a Flying Yian Kut-Ku. I cannot replace Rafa, so I have to say goodbye to my blue Yian Kut-Ku. Heading inside the volcano, I have a single egg to obtain, Aerodrome. I was lucky with egg as I managed to get an Aerodrome to flee and lead me to his nest. After finally waking up the boulder that turned out to be an Oregon X, the fight was much harder due to the heat preventing my Monstie from attacking. Losing enough turn, the fight was very close by the end. If I did not finish it this turn, he more than likely would have defeated me. After the fight, I collected eggs for the cooling gene, giving it to my Yian Kut-Ku. So I at least have one party member capable of sustaining heat, but I will not give him more good genes, as I intend to replace him with Yangaruga pretty soon. Luckily, my character's armor protects me from the heat. Achnactory X proved to be a challenge, causing me to lose my very first attempt. However, on the second attempt, I was very lucky, applying paralysis early and getting the boss to fail acting multiple times in a row, which allowed me to ride my Gypsaros long enough to destroy its head and weaken its tail, allowing me to win with only a single card. With Nubeka Island now unlocked, I have to now obtain 2 new party members, Great Jaggy and the single strongest Bird Wyvern, Yangaruga. Great Jaggy was easy as I defeated one and got it straight from their nest. I was also lucky to get a Yangaruga to flee. Now, I just want to take a moment and point out how Yangaruga is born with both eyes and then mysteriously loses an eye while growing up in our care. Are we like, stabbing out his eye? Also, yes, it is a Dedai Yangaruga, the Deviant. Even if the name treats it like a common Yangaruga, hence the name One Eye. I started by giving my One Eye a cold resistance gene for the final area of the run. Next, some of you might have noticed I did not mention a few unique monster side quests. I did not forget them, I actually kept them for my Yangaruga to gain XP on. First is Crimson Fiend. Though he is low level, so is One Eye. But the fight was easy, I won using only speed attacks. The rematch against Poison Bloom was a second try, if we forget the previous attempts, of course. Due to my stubbornness of using only One Eye, I can't sell the reward, but I am not allowed to use it. The Unbreakable was a long fight, but he kept spamming his noxious gas, which One Eye and my armor are immune to. The Intruder was a heavy damage dealer who carded me twice, but not exactly a tough fight as she did not have any real trick up her horn. The Ambusher was just a big stupid spider with no tricks, no damage, no resistances. During the hunting process, I obtained a few eggs, one of them with a nicely placed heat resistance gene I gave to my One Eye. The Demon Blossom wasn't too hard. He sure threw a few curveballs every once in a while, but it was manageable. Next story boss is the Blighted Yangaruga, and I hated that boss. I succeeded on my third attempt, but it felt a bit unfair. I would often target the same party member twice in a row or switch his attack type. I got that he will use power attacks if a target is poisoned, but technique and speed felt haphazardly used. But luckily I had my little Perla to cheer me on. It is rare for her to climb on the desk like that. It took me until I met a Crimson Kurupeko to remember I had unlocked new Monsties in the monsoon area. So I exited the forest and went to hunt for these new Monsties, Crimson Kurupeko, and the wiki says Purple Gypsaros. I tried walking around going into regular and rare den. I even used my Kurupeko to make calls, but no luck finding one. So from this point, given I am only missing Purple Gypsaros and Great Baggy, I will call it quit for the collect all Bird Wyverns eggs. I will also abandon this rule for any future Monster Hunter challenges in the futures. Before continuing, I decided to finally give my Yangaruga a soothing song from Kurupeko so he can stay in combat longer. I then gave him my only Bird Wyvern stimulant and the Great Jaggy's Breaking Blow, giving my Yangaruga a full range of moves to counter any and all enemies. Also, as I was doing side quests, I discovered I could not finish Tiblis, as the first step is to climb an ivy, which no Bird Wyvern can. Xenogre comes next. While the fight was not too hard, I do mention it as it is the very first monster to use consistently all 3 types of attacks. Cheval was the next boss, and a disappointing one at that. Seriously, he only used speed attacks. The only reason I carded once was because I expected him to quit spamming speed like a bloody velocipray. The Tigrex X fight was not hard in my opinion, even though it was my second try. My first attempt ended in failure due to, once again, my stubbornness on using Garuga. When I switched to Kurupeko, the fight was easy as pie, especially after we broke his face and cut his tail. The footage that you are seeing right now is of my first try. The footage for my second attempt got corrupted. The next boss is... oh no, not him. It's a fucking Kieran, one of my top 2 most hated monsters. I hate those fucking ponies with a passion. This one managed to cart me twice. One from focusing my one eye at the beginning of the fight. I managed to have him last longer by riding him, but he got carted right after. Then a second time when he used his area of effect lightning to strike. Before running away like a coward. Hey, come back here! I'm not done with you! I'll eat your horn like a celery stick! Follow up by Lagercrus. Now, this is a thunder monster that I like. I generally like Leviathans very much. While he was a second try, he was not too hard. My main error was not juggling enough between my Monsties on the first attempt, leading to too many cards. On the second try, I almost repeated that error by letting my Great Jaggy fall, but got lucky as he mainly focused my Monsties while I juggled them, all the while trying to keep him in tech resonance as long as possible so he would always use technical attacks. First in the final boss rush are Cheval and Versa Pietru. The fight is not at all hard, meant to be more of a cinematic fight. The best it could do was knock me off my one eye. Followed by a blighted Stygian Xenogre. I love this monster, but damn he hit hard. He carded me twice in 2 turns, but he often used speed attacks, making him not all that hard, except when he would attack multiple times per turn. Blighted Brachydios is here to hit hard and gets destroyed harder. He is the type of monster to lose attack styles as the battle goes on, making him easier and easier. All the while, all I could think of was how much I hope Raging Brachydios is a Monstie in story history. Though not as much as Violet Mizutsune and Thunderblight Mizutsune. And finally, the last boss before Pietru, Pickle. A hard hitter for sure, but predictable given about 90% of his attacks are power oriented, making him pretty easy, but he can still cart you if you don't expect a technical attack. Phase 1 is a fight against Rafa. Now, in a run where you rely on Rafa, it might be difficult, but this is only a common Rafa loss. Focus on speed attacks and the fight will be over in a few turns. After 2 attempts against the actual boss, I realized that he simply hits too hard for me and I require more levels. So I leave to finish a few more side quests. Now, none of the side quests are really worth any mention, but I did take the time to change and give a few new genes to my Monsties. Now, the final boss for real, Pietru. It was a freaking nightmare. I love this game, but this boss nearly drove me to the brink of utter madness. His complete randomness, his high damage, my idiotic Monsties repeatedly using wrong attacks and attacking his protected body. But on the 6th try, I succeeded. You see, my first attempt was the closest, but was lost on his ultimate attack, guarding my Monstie and I at once. But this time I knew what to do. I always had one Monstie with full guildship ready for that move. One eye. The only unfortunate part is I was forced to change to Rafa for the final attack. With that said, here are my party stats before the full fight. Normally, I like doing post-game contents to challenge my team, but I am too busy having my birds pick the fuck out of that elder asshole. On a more serious note, I looked into the post-game challenges for this game. We have elder dragons, but I highly doubt they'll even match the final boss's difficulty. There's also Fatalis, but to do so I have to complete a labyrinth and 50th floor of the Mirage Tower. I never did the labyrinth as I only played this game on Android before, and I believe this is DLC. But if it is like in Stories 2, it is too long. Now, if you have any idea for a post-game challenge that does not require weeks of progress, I am all ears. But right now, I cannot find one. With that said, thank you very much for watching. Please do leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed my content. The next challenge? Bird Wyverns only, but this time in Monster Hunter Stories 2.